There's one. I knew they were in there. I could see them. There ain't a whole bunch of them. It's just one stump sitting in there is what that is. There's a bunch of bluegill in there, but I could see them crappie sitting in there too. I just had to keep casting and keep casting. Old black nose. Look at there. He's been eating minnows. Trying to poop on me. Shame on you for trying to poop on me. Get back in there. Don't tell your buddies on me. One little stump sitting up there. And that stump is sitting in about 12 feet of water right on the edge of a break. I idled down that break looking for fish, and I just happened to see some sitting on that stump. I knew a lot of it was bluegill, but I also knew them big wads of bluegill this time of year usually have a lot of crappie in them too, or not a lot of crappie, but at least a few crappie. Always, when you see a big wad of bluegill, it's always worth stopping and making a few casts, or at least looking at them with active target just to see. Because after you've looked at several schools of crappie and bluegill, you can definitely tell the difference between the two. It's pretty obvious, the size difference of them. I'll tell y'all what I'm gonna do. It just so happens that I stopped this morning and got me a few minnows. I'm gonna throw a minnow in there and see if they'll bite it. Here goes one. Got him. That's a crappie. It's a big one. A real big one. I think it's catfish. Rolling. I'm gonna say we got us a channel cat. Fighting way too hard to be a crappie. If it's crappie, it's an absolute monster. Yeah, I thought so. Channel cat like live minnows. Nasty rascal, slime my line all up. Ought to take you home, fry you. Come here. Come here. Come here. One thing about when you throw a minnow in there, you never know what you're gonna get. Channel cat. Get back in there and see what else we can get to bite. Here we go. Got him. Let's see what we got here. I think this is a good crappie here. Very next cast. I'm pretty sure this is a nice crappie. Yep. Good crappie. Just had to throw a live minnow in there. Caught that one on the jig, and then we put a minnow in there and got that big boy. Now that's a good fish right there. Not a giant, but there certainly ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with keeping your options open either. I don't always stop and get minnows, but I don't know, this year I've just been having fun kind of playing around with them. I stopped and got me a couple of dozen on the way over here this morning. And started out on this spot. I threw a jig in there, caught one, knew there were more fish in there. So I said, well, before I leave it, we'll just throw a minnow in there and see what happens. And sure enough, we caught that catfish and then threw right back in there and caught us another crappie. So I mean, there ain't nothing else to do but throw back in there and see if we can get us another crappie. Here we go. Got him. It's another good crappie, I think. Now I'm having to land that thing right on that stump. I mean, I'm having to get it right on that stump. These fish are not wanting to chase a whole lot today, but I think we can flip that one. Yes, sir. Pretty fish. Be a good eating size fish. I still got plenty of crappie in the freezer. I've been going pretty regular, so I'm stocked up, so I'm gonna let them go today. That's a good one. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't care how old I get, how many crappie I catch, it's fun watching that bobber go down. I like it. It's kind of boring sitting there waiting on them to bite, but I like watching them just ease off with it. Here we go. Got him. Feels like another nice crappie. It's amazing how many crappie can be sitting on one little stump like that, and you're sitting there looking at it on active target, but they get right up next to that stump and they blend in, and it doesn't look like there's but 2 or 3 of them sitting there, but a lot of times they could be 10 or 12, 15 of them sitting there, and you don't even realize it because they're sitting so tight to that stump that they blend in. That's what's going on in this situation right here. I'll be honest with y'all, I didn't even plan on fishing with minnows in this video. I just kind of got them today just to play around with them a little bit. But I mean, that's what you call fishing the conditions, you know, keeping your options open, having jigs, having minnows, and just you know, reading each school of fish for what it is. Because there are definitely times, I've seen times where it was just the opposite way. They wouldn't bite a minnow and they will bite a jig, and then I've certainly seen times where you can kind of catch a few on the jig and then throw that minnow in there and pick up some that you didn't get on the jigs. Just because I think the reason that minnow does so good is because it just hangs right in the strike zone. So, you know, it's sitting right in those fish's face, and obviously it, you know, you don't have to impart action into a minnow. That minnow's sitting there wiggling and looking like he's trying to get away. And eventually those fish can't stand it. They just got to have it. There's one. Got one to bite the jig. And that's something. I wouldn't bite the minnow in there, but I got one to bite the dang jig. And it's a good one too. He ain't big as I thought he was. He ain't bad. He's a good fish. Well, that son of a gun is fat. Man, he's fat. Look how thick that fish is. Probably an 1.5 inches thick, 2 inches thick. I mean, that's a big fish. We'll take them like that all day. I was seeing them fish in there, and I made 2 perfect casts with that minnow on the slip bobber in there, and they just didn't want any part of it. They'd come up and look at it. I couldn't get them to bite it, so I said, well, what do I have to lose? I threw the jig in there, and I'll be dang if one of them didn't bite the dang jig. Doesn't make any sense, but it definitely pays to keep your options open when you're crappie fishing, that's for sure. All right, I got one on the jig. Now I'm gonna go back in there with the minnow and see what happens. Here we go. Got him. Just had to turn my minnow around, hook it through the tail. That's all I had to do. Sometimes you just gotta swap it up. I mean, all these all these little tricks, I hope y'all know. And all these little tricks, every trick you've got in your bag, eventually you're gonna need it. And on days like today where you're dealing with a cold front situation, fish aren't really biting that good, that's when you gotta pull them tricks out. we go. Got him. Feels like a crappie, yep. Not a real big one, but not a bad one either. I slid out on this point just a little bit and turn my back to this boat. Slid out on this point just a little bit. There's another brush pile out here. It's got some good crappie in it. There's several of them down there. I caught that one on the minnow. I'm gonna fire this jig in there and just see what they'll do with it. There he is. Got that one on the jig. About the same size. Good keeper fish. You can definitely catch them quicker with the jig. That's why I find myself using it more times than not, because I just like catching them. I like feeling that thump. I like the game with the jig too, because every day it's a little bit different. That's a pretty fish. This particular jig right here is the Bobby Garland itty bit slab hunter. Y'all have seen it a lot on my channel. I got a lot of confidence in it. 1/32 ounce head, size 5 split shot. I got 4-pound vicious fluorocarbon leader, 5-pound vicious panfish braid on my main line, about a 6-foot leader, 2500 size reel, 6.6 light action mustad detector rod. I'll link all this stuff in the description so you guys can see what I'm using and all that. And just remember, if you didn't know, you can find everything you need, crappie fishing, bass fishing, pretty much anything you need if you're an outdoorsman at midwayusa.com. Everything I use, you can pretty much find it there. I'll leave links in the description, like I said. If y'all are wondering about my slip bobber setup, just go back a couple videos. I've got 2 different videos that I've done in the past couple of months where I explain and go through every little detail of my entire slip bobber rig. It's real simple, but it's pretty I go in depth on how I rig it and why I rig it the way I do. So if you guys haven't done so, go back a few videos and check that out. Here we go. Got him. Hadn't snuck up on me. Looked up. The bobber was gone. So, well, you might ought to set the hook there, dummy. That's what I get for not paying attention. Well, that's a nice fish. Yes, sir. No real giants today so far. I mean, we caught one pretty darn good one, but all of them are good keeper size fish, that's for sure. There's one. That's a crappie amongst about 1,000 bluegills, what that is. Tons of bluegill down there, but there's obviously a few crappie in that school too. Well, he just barely got it too. Look at that. Barely got him, but I got him. All right, y'all. Hope you enjoyed that one. Kind of a quick trip, a little afternoon trip. Caught several fish, a couple different ways. Caught a few on a jig, caught a few on a minnow. You know, the moral to the story today, just keep your options open. You know, I've talked about this before on my channel. Like, the more tricks you have in your bag, it's about like being a carpenter or a mechanic. The more tricks you have up your sleeve being a fisherman, the more efficient you're going to be on the water. There's going to be days where, like today, the wind got up a little bit, and when that wind got up, obviously it makes it harder to throw a jig, so that's where that slip bobber came in. You know, so just keep your options open. don't ever get too locked in, and don't ever stop learning. That's the biggest thing. I try to learn something every time I go to the lake, and if you'll do the same, I guarantee you'll be a better fisherman for it. I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you next time right here, Brandon Lester Fishing.